Personnel Committee rolling here. Let's start out with the roll call. President is Alder Bill Galvin.
Alder Dorf, present.
Alder Corpus Dax, present.
Alder Kathy LaFave, present.
Okay, everyone is here to comment for. I get a motion on the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
Motion by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder LaFave to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Alder Corpus Dax and seconded by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously.
Go ahead, hold 1 second.
Sure.
Thank
What was
you.
the approval of the agenda?
And the minutes. We
The
did.
minutes were Corpus Dax.
Okay, gotcha.
We're all set? All right, we're going to be down on regular business, D1. Consideration with possible action on a request from the police department to fill 2 lieutenant's positions with 2 patrol sergeant positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Staff.
So you do have the memo in your packet, and one piece of information that I learned today is that if you look at one of the lieutenants, who was Lieutenant Wesley, we initially hired 4 sergeants in April, and what the thought was, we hired 4 in April because Lieutenant Wesley was going to be retiring this summer. Then I accidentally included Lieutenant Wesley in the additional vacancy going forward. So really, we have room for 1 sergeant at this time. I will say, though, that the police department, well, I'll back up. So I think proper motion would be just to amend it to 1 lieutenant for 1 sergeant. But I think at the next meeting, the police department would like to come forward and talk about some overtime issues that they've had, and that 2 sergeants being hired could help reduce that cost. But we'd like to give them time to talk to the finance department to make sure that's put in place for it.
So if I understand this correctly, when we created the 4 sergeants' positions, we were anticipating 4 lieutenants leaving.
So we had 1 captain vacancy,
Okay.
and we had 2 lieutenant vacancies at
Vacancies,
this
and we
time.
were anticipating Lieutenant Wesley leaving.
And that was 4, yeah.
But we're going to promote 2 sergeants, aren't we?
We have amended.
Hold on.
one
Yeah,
right
so,
now.
so the request was to promote 2 sergeants because we included Lieutenant Wesley as one of the vacancies going forward, but we already included him in April.
Right, so what I'm trying to say is, we've already promoted a sergeant to replace his lieutenant's position.
That's correct.
So now this other lieutenant that's leaving, or anticipating to leave, so we just need to have 1
That's correct.
sergeant.
Yes.
So I'll rephrase the motion then.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this?
No, I anticipate this lieutenant leaving by the end of the month. 29th should be his last day, and that's been confirmed by his new employer, and so we're going to move forward with that. I do think we will be saving money, and I think we'll come back with the numbers for that. That'll show that an additional sergeant will save us money in supervisory overtime in the field. We've been spending about $30,000 a year for the past couple of years, and I think if we can make another additional sergeant in the field, that'll help alleviate some of that.
But we won't be meeting again until August.
Right, so if, with your permission, we'll make the first sergeant to fill the impending vacancy for the lieutenant, not Dave Wesley, the other one, and then we'll make another one, we'll hit you up again for
In August.
permission to make the next one.
Okay, all right.
And I think just to add to is, I think the past couple months, or excuse me, the past couple of years, we're about 8,000 to 9,000 in overtime. And then this year is approaching 30,000. But we'd like to give our finance department the opportunity to run the numbers with the police department before we come back in August. That's all we're asking for.
And this is supervisor only overtime,
Correct.
$30,000.
Correct.
That's only for the first half of the year.
First half. And what's our current staffing level? How many actual boots do we have on the ground right now?
181?
181, and what are we supposed to have?
Authorized 194.
So we're down 13 officers, officer supervisors, or just officers?
13 total personnel. We'll be down 1 lieutenant at the end of this month, but the rest of them are all police officers.
How do we end up 13 short? I thought there was supposed to be a batch of hiring in early spring or late winter, and then early spring, and then, again,
Yeah, as you know, we're mandated to keep a certain number of vacancies per year so that we meet our budget requirements. But we've had some difficulty filling some spots, and we've lost a couple others. Another officer resigned recently, so we've been losing them as quick as we can. We've got one in the academy that just got hired on and just started the academy. We've got another one we're looking to make an offer on over there. We had 2 come into the Police and Fire Commission this afternoon. We're looking to do another test in August to see if we can build up that pool, but it's a struggle to fill those spots, no doubt about it.
How many officers do we have on light duty right now?
And then, sorry, just to interrupt, if either Chief Smith or Commander Abel can come to the podium. and
Sure.
discuss.
Sure.
Sorry.
How many officers do we have on light duty right now?
We had 10, Paul, do you know the exact number right now? We were up to 10 officers on light duty, I think 1 or 2 have come back, so I would guess right about
We're down
8
to
right now.
5.
Down to 5.
5 on light duty and 2 are female officers in prison.
In essence, we've got an entire shift going. And I think if you remember, during budget time, I was pushing hard that we hire those people right away and not, I've never liked this idea when I was on a department. I understand that we anticipate there's gonna be personnel missing, and so we build that into our budget as a savings. But that's, to me, that's not honest budgeting. You might as well just say our staffing level is gonna be 190 or 187. I, especially with service-related organizations like the fire department and the police department, we should be striving to be, in my opinion, at 100% all the time. These 18 officers, if we had them right now, could be out doing so many things that we're hearing in complaints from the neighbors. And I understand we're between a rock and a hard place now, there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
But going forward, coming budget time, I would certainly like to see these departments that provide these services that we have to fulfill. And you got people waiting for responses by police, it's not right. And I mean, the same thing goes in, I believe, with DPW and some of the other groups here in the city, and using these vacancies as a means of saving on the budget. And I know you don't do the budget, you know, it doesn't come out of you, but this is just something I'm venting on, and I'd like to see the department heads push harder to fill these vacancies sooner, faster, so that we're at as close to 100% as much as possible. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kathy?
I concur with that because I think, yeah, we need those people, the fire department and the police department. And also, I think I've been so busy at the council, I'm gonna make a request that we hire more CSIs. We're down to, what was it, 3?
We're down to 3 CSIs, we got a couple more in the hopper. I had to reject a bunch that applied because of whatever background reason they couldn't make it, but we have a couple more that we're open to hire shortly.
Yeah, because the CSIs too can
They do
also
a heck
help
of
a
a
They do a lot of
job.
force.
I mean, yeah, because, I mean, to have an officer come for some more smaller, petty thing, it doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
Okay. That's all I have.
Well, I'll rephrase the motion then. I move that we allow the police department to fill 1 lieutenant position with 1 patrol sergeant position and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Item D2. Consideration with possible action to amend the public arts coordinator position from a limited term employee to a permanent part-time employee at .75, a 3/4 time job.
Yep.
Staff?
And we have Cheryl Renier-Wig here to speak on that position.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I want to clarify, at the last council meeting, we had talked about the CSIs in conjunction with the funding for this position. We do have 3 CSIs right now, as the chief just stated. They are being funded right now with block grant, but that funding will stop at the end of this year. The chief is going to put the CSIs into his budget entirely. One of the things we're looking at is kind of changing that CSI program
Right.
into a cadet-ish type
At one
of
time, there
program.
was a cadet, we lose a lot of time. Am I digressing too much?
No, it's related to
Okay.
this position.
At one time, we hired people that wanted to be police officers. It was called a cadet program. I don't care what you call it. What they did was, though, they were vetted at a much higher level than the current CSIs are.
Okay.
They were trained in all facets of the department and how it operated. They were at-will employees, so if you found someone that was a stinker, you could get rid of them before he was sworn in and became a bigger problem. At the same time, we lose a lot of time training officers how to be Green Bay police officers. If they were cadets first, we would save a lot of time on that training, because once even they're hired and sworn in, they spend, I believe, there's a field training program that they go through, where an officer, a senior officer trains them and then evaluates them on every call. And if they have problems, they try to correct it, and if they just don't work out, then they also leave the service. And we would save a lot of time on that training and be able to get them on the road sooner to be out working within our city, so.
Is there a difference in what they, there's some pay, right?
There would probably be some pay difference, because currently the CSIs make $10 an hour.
Yeah.
$11.50.
And they get no benefits, they don't work full-time, and it's very hard when you tell a kid who just got out of college with
Sure.
loans, we're gonna work you 29 hours a week, or whatever it is.
Mhm,
It's not working, that's why we lose some really good candidates.
Right.
So if they're full-time, and if we had a full-time cadet program, they'd be working probably anticipated upwards of all 3 shifts, handling a lot of stuff that the officers don't necessarily need to handle. They could be out in our parks, they could be at special events. There's just so much they used to do and can do for us while not paying an officer's wage.
Yeah.
So it's something I've been talking with the chief.
Yeah.
They're trying to put a program together with some
Mhm.
costs and things
Yeah,
like that.
that makes more sense.
Yeah,
So-
Alder Sawyer?
Alderman, it's a good point to bring up, but I was wondering, with this program, when was that, that was part of the police program?
It started in 1980.
And when did it supposedly
It
end?
it died on the vine after about, I think, 10 or 15 years. It got to be, they started adding more and more things onto it, like they were paying the tuition. If the officers were going to school, they were paying their tuition at NWTC. If they were going to school full-time, they only had to work 25 hours a week. And I think what happened was it just became unmanageable after a while. It got too big for its britches, so to speak.
But is there another possibility to look at something?
Yeah, the chief is putting together a proposal. They've been working on it for the better part of a year. I mean, I saw, when I was on the job, the CSIs are such an asset to our community.
Right.
With the neighborhood associations and being able to go out there and meet people for minor things that officers are sometimes too busy to get to right away. And it's a good way for these kids to learn what our community is all about before they become police officers. They get to know these neighborhood association members and presidents, and they get the lay of the land and how the city operates and what's going on. And I just think you end up with a more rounded officer in the end.
I think
So I
the
should
problem-
change my request.
Let me just
Maybe I'll kind of because you want to position, transmission.
Right,
Maybe I should
well,
wait.
because we're
Wait,
losing the
not-
funding.
I'll wait.
And the department's gonna be picking up, I think it's something that we.
I'll wait,
We're
yeah,
not
until
talking
he
about
comes
that.
back, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I just wanted to finish.
Sure.
As far as, I lost my train a little bit, but if you, if we could bring this back, my thought is, I like your thought process where you say, okay, we train these folks and then they leave. And that happens in a lot of other departments too.
Yeah.
I would like to see something in place that, would guarantee a little bit more of a step, from that into the police department or engineering or whatever, on any other department. Because, I don't know what the cost loss is for something like that. This institutional training that over time you lose because all the time you spend. I don't know if there's a way to even put a number on that. But
Well, we're
anyway,
gonna try.
What's that?
We're
Okay.
gonna try, that's the goal, but
All right.
I just wanted to clarify that, so you knew that we actually are still funding the CSIs, 3 of them through block grant, but that would be ending.
Ending, okay.
So we have the ability to do both, the 3 CSIs, and to add the $15,000 of block grant onto this public arts coordinator position. One of the initiatives that we have in our department is to try to add more artwork into neighborhoods. So this would allow our public arts coordinator to work in our block grant target areas to do more artwork. That's one of the reasons we're adding the block grant dollars to this position. It's also going to stabilize this position a bit more, 30 hours with benefits. There's a large learning curve as well with this position, and I don't want this to flip every 6 months as well. That's a lot of downtime for us. So the PAC is fundraising. They're in a campaign right now to raise dollars. The goal is for this to be a full-time position, paid for by private fundraising through the public arts. Correct? Correct, Elstein. So this is kind of what we're going to do this for a year, for 1 year time, in the hopes that they can raise the dollars to support this position off the levy. Completely. It's off the levy now.
If they have private funds paying this, but they're still a city employee,
Mhm.
So they, state retirement system, bennies, all that
Yep,
stuff.
we reimburse it. We've got, our neighborhood specialist right now is funded half with Green Bay Neighborhood Leadership money, which is privately raised, and then half with block
Okay.
grants. So we just reimburse the city for those costs.
All right. Barb?
I just have to bring up a question that Alder Johnson asked, that now I feel like it's a really good question. Didn't we already just approve this?
We approved the
City Council?
funding for block grant at the redevelopment authority, and the PAC approved increasing the hours for this position, but it hasn't been approved through personnel and council officially yet to make this change.
What did
What
we
do we
approve
approve
at
the
council?
council then?
You approved the report of the Public Arts Commission, which allowed this position to be increased to 30 hours, so.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So officially, you need to change the job description and title through personnel.
Well, I would.
So I'm still getting it that the city's not putting the money in, right?
Correct, it's
Okay.
coming from the Public Arts
Okay.
Stadium District money that was used to set up the Public Arts Commission, and then Community Development Block Grant, so it's not on the levy.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else to say? Alder Johnson?
Just a comment, in my experience, getting companies to contribute to government-related activities indefinitely is a lot more difficult than it seems. And so I appreciate the fact that they're doing the fundraising right now, and I think that's a good short-term way to fund this position. I'm not as convinced that that will last forever. And I'm making that comment because I know Alder Dorf is on the redevelopment authority, and I'd submitted a communication at the last council meeting requesting staff to pull together some options for what's essentially called a percent for the arts.
Right.
And part of my intention with that communication was to create a mechanism that could fund this position indefinitely. So I just wanted to at least
Yes, that'd be great.
maybe add some clarity to that. I think this is a good short-term way to get there.
Right.
I think that percent for the arts program, if the council were to seriously consider that, that might be a way to permanently fund this position.
Correct, and that's the optimum way. I mean, we've been successful, at least in raising money for neighborhoods through private dollars through the Leadership Council.
I know, yeah.
But you're right, it's tough to raise money because people think the city should be paying for that when it's the city kind of position, so. But I'm thinking we could be successful, at least for the first year. I think we should be able to raise some money for public arts, so.
But, and I think, again, donors, they're gonna be more likely to give to art,
Right,
not necessarily to
the
overhead
admin,
staff
yes.
or admin.
And that's kind of the way
again,
it is
government
whenever you
control.
fundraise.
Yeah.
Yep, totally agree with that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I will add that Alder Weary sent me an email,
Yeah.
and he said the public arts position, he is strongly opposed to it, and I think he voiced his concerns at council. He doesn't say exactly why, but I'm sure we'll be hearing from him again.
Well, and that's why I wanted to clarify the CSIs. We can do them both. It's-
Right.
If we do this, we're not taking away from the CSI program.
Was
So
that
I
his
wanted to
concern? I don't recall.
I-
his
I
concern.
didn't
think
have
that
a chance
was-
to talk to him, so.
brought up at the last
Okay.
council meeting. so.
All right, well, if he reviews this, or
Yep.
Kathy, if you talk to him, maybe you can impart that information to him. That might
Yeah.
be what his concern was. If not, we'll probably address it at council then.
Yep.
All right, thank you
I
very
would
much.
move to approve. Second.
A motion to approve by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Stacks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Good to go? All right. D3, consideration with possible action on a request to reclassify the hourly position of deputy city clerk, pay grade G, to a salaried deputy city clerk position, pay grade H, at a projected annual cost of $5,770, and to fill the position and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Staff.
In May, the deputy clerk retired.
And that-
Pardon? Anita?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
And since that time, the city clerk, Chris Teskey, has been evaluating the job duties of that position and has determined that by restructuring some of the duties of the position, some efficiencies could be gained. And in summary, what we have done is we've removed a significant amount of clerical duties and shifted them to an existing position within the department. And then added to this position some supervisory responsibilities in addition to responsibilities that assume a more prominent role in the office in terms of planning and organizing the office. Assuming the role of the city clerk if she cannot attend a city council meeting, or handling election or other duties per state statute. So with that change in job duties, we had our salary study consultant take a look
Sure.
at it, and the position, he is recommending that it go up a pay grade, which is our recommendation. We feel that's certainly necessary. And with that reclassification, we're looking at an annual cost of about $5,700. The other point to make is with this now being a supervisory position, it meets the exempt status, not exempt for overtime under the FLSA.
Okay. Chris, you're looking at doing this internally?
And Chris, could you please step up?
And after everything everyone sees that you have to go through, someone still wants to step up and take that position?
Thank you for saying that. Well, it's going to have to be posted.
Okay. So it could come from a different department within
It could.
the city, okay?
Yes, yes. But I see it as, the overtime, like when the deputy clerk worked before for elections, that was all overtime. This way, it'll just be comp time, so there's going to be some adjustment
Right.
there in the money.
Okay.
We've noticed that with some of the elections, like if it falls on Good Friday, we have to stay open. So at that time, it was the election specialist that would stay, and that was double time plus holiday. So this way, it will be the deputy clerk who is going to do the elections, who will stay with me, and it's just comp time.
Okay.
So I see it as a benefit.
Sure. Kathy?
I can say I don't care how much the increase in salary is. I don't think you'll find anybody to replace Anita. Her experience, the years she's been there. I
Yeah.
bet you're really missing
Yeah,
her.
but I saw, as time went on, because Anita didn't want to take over the
yeah.
election portion
Sure.
when the state took over.
Uh-huh.
So that went to an election specialist. This way, I have the backup there, so if by some chance I would be sick or out, the deputy clerk would take over with that election knowledge.
Good. That's good.
All right.
Alderman.
Alder Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair. Chris, I was going to ask, is there any projection on savings on something like this? Time, worse money, whatever?
Diana kind of pulled some reports.
I mean, just
Just where you're talking just straight overtime?
yeah.
Yeah, I think last year, we went a little bit over $3,000 in overtime. I think last year, this position went about $3,000 in overtime. But again, Chris is always very, very careful and cautious on what hours of overtime is worked. That, this person will definitely get more flexibility and free up, help potentially free up either Chris or actually this person will probably spend more time in the office now that they're being a salaried position.
That's it for now. Thank
All
you.
right. Any other questions, concerns? All right, thanks so much, Chris. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Alderman Fave and seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Let's see, item D4, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Weary to explore options to restore an assistant to the city council position, full-time, part-time, intern. I guess he's kind of looking at all options, and I do have an email here from him. If I could read that, this is from Alderman Weary. Looking to have staff bring back options for this position to bring it back. We're the third largest city with a population of over 100,000. We used to have an assistant. We have large workloads and absolutely nobody assigned to help us. So that's what he has to say. I don't know anything about a former assistant or anything else. But that's what he would like staff to look at that, bring back some proposals, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think what we can do is look back and see when we had an assistant and what kind of responsibilities they
Okay.
did
Right,
work on.
right.
And I think it would be helpful to have some clarifications on what responsibilities he would like help with as well, kind of give us something to look into.
Okay.
Should we hold this till he can be here next
Well,
time?
if they can actually start putting stuff together,
Yeah,
and then,
should.
once
Yeah.
they get some stuff together, he could even meet with them once they get the ball rolling, and I think maybe clarify it if it needs to be, but,
Yeah, if he wants to clarify at next week's council meeting as well,
Okay.
helpful as well, or also meet with us, it'd be helpful.
because I don't have a problem with that, at least staff looking at this, you know, as you folks get more involved, and as I've been getting more involved, you know, there's sometimes Barb and I were talking, it might be helpful, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
staff currently helps us out as much as they can, but sometimes they've got an awful lot on their plate, and stuff can get moved to the backside sometimes, so.
Mhm.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we refer this to staff to study and to contact Alder Weary and see if you know, what his, how would it was say it? A little more background, I guess, on it and work with staff. Does that sound okay? And then would we bring it back here, right? Or,
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, this will go to common council next week, and if you approve it next week, then I'll come back. I think probably after we talk to Alderperson Weary, get some research, and we'll bring it back when we're ready, when Alderperson Weary's ready.
Okay.
Need a second on that? I'll second it. Motion to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to deny?
Aye.
Aye.
It's a tie, which means it goes nowhere. So, that's that. All right.
I would like to make a motion that we bring it back. Can we bring it back to the next meeting when Alder Weary's here to give a little more explanation?
Well, I do think we just probably finalize the item, but,
Okay.
I mean, when it's a 2-2 vote, typically it will go to the common council.
Full
as-
council.
anyway,
Oh, we
if
can
you
talk
want-
about it at council.
If you
anyway.
want to, it doesn't have to.
Okay, so then we can get more clarification at council.
We could do that.
Okay. Fine.
And then you will also, staff will research when
No.
we have an assistant?
No,
Or we
no.
have a decision
No,
in
they won't do
council?
anything right now.
They won't do anything until council approves or disapproves it.
Right.
Okay, well, Chris must know when.
In fact,
I
Kathy,
assume he will bring it up.
Kathy, they won't do anything until it was approved by council.
Right, but no, I'm saying Chris probably at council.
Right, he can bring it up.
probably will bring
Pull
this
it and
up. Okay.
bring it up.
Okay.
All right. No? No?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Number 5, consideration with possible action on a request by Alderdorf to approve a salary increase for position of mayor effective following the 2019 mayoral election. The mayor's salary will be increased annually based on any general increase provided to general municipal employees on the date the increase is provided. Do you want me to list all the increases?
No. not
Basically
necessarily.
$11,000 a year for the next 4 years.
I'd like to talk about this a little bit. All right. So what I did was bring back the research. Alderperson, former Alderperson Moore had made this request, and it, on June 13th, 2017. So there was a lot of research done. I think it just was received and placed on file. I'm not really even sure whatever happened to this, but I didn't want a whole nother, time spent doing a whole nother study. So I'm not necessarily in favor of the amounts that were put in here, but I did not want to waste time having a whole nother study done, because I think we can talk about what would be some fair amounts. So I think interestingly, the study was well done. There's a lot of data about the cities that have not only mayor, but also a city administrator that does a lot of the work that currently we just have one person doing. I definitely believe that the position of mayor in the city of Green Bay, that salary needs to be increased. I'm just not real sure right now how much I think it needs to be increased by. I had asked for something that I got from Director Falls, and I had asked, what if, before the mayor's salary was frozen about 8 years ago, what if it hadn't been frozen? And what if it just had increased the amount that the average cost of living increase was given to employees in the city? And so the answer to that question was 93, where is it? gave me the projection. Oh, it's in the webpage. Okay, I gotta open it up. Got it, all right. So, that would have been increased, and in 2018, the number would have been 94,863. So,
And what's it at right now?
82,500, right, 82,535.
Yep, that's
So it's
right.
been frozen. It's been frozen for the last, like, is that 10 years? Since 2008? Or,
It was, since 2010, it was.
2010.
Frozen. There was, in 2008, there was a $2,000 increase given. And then I believe in 2010, 2009, 2010, I believe they gave a $1,200 increase.
but it has been, okay,
Frozen
I
since
see,
2010.
I see. So it was 80,535, and then it went to 82,535.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
So there has not been any increase at all for the position of mayor in this city. We are the third largest city, and we are currently paid at the eighth, we're number 8 as far as what the mayor gets. But that doesn't even, I don't think, tell the whole story, because then there are a number of cities. Let's look at Racine, for example, which is the 5th largest. Racine, that population, 78,000, ours is 104,000. The Racine mayor makes $74,110 a year. And a city administrator in that same city makes an additional $140,000. So when you add those two together, it's well over $200,000. And I'm not suggesting that that's what the mayor get in our city at all. But I am saying that you can't even really compare, it's like apples to oranges, because there are city administrators doing this work, getting quite a large salary, and the mayor is a different role in some of these cities. So I would just like to have a discussion with, as a base, I think the base should be 94,863, because I think that's where he would have been at, or a mayor would have been at, if they would have gotten the 2% increases a year like all the other employees. But maybe that is not high enough, so that's my
Alderman
opinion.
Faith?
Right, I won't approve 11,000, that's a 13% increase, and I think that'd be an insult to our employees, because they haven't gotten anything near that. What do they get?
I'm sorry, who hasn't gotten anything?
Our employees, our regular employees
Yeah,
have
they-
not managers, our regular employees
Haven't
have
gotten
gotten.
$11,000 a year.
Oh, no.
No, I'm saying a 13% increase. That's why I
I'd
find,
have to ask-
this, but I said,
Well,
right,
I'd
we
have
could
to
talk
ask,
about it.
what
but-
has the increase been in the
Well-
last 10 years?
That's what I have in this.
Oh, 2%.
2% a year for the
2%.
last 10 years?
For the cost of living increase.
So they've gotten
Times
about a
to
20%
12%.
raise.
Oh, yeah, yeah, 20%.
I mean,
But they get it each year, right, but I'm just saying, all of a sudden, you're gonna give them 13%.
No,
This
no.
year, the employees are gonna get 2% or something, maybe. So I'm just saying, right now, I wouldn't approve the 11,000, but, maybe they can be increased.
Well, how would you catch up then?
How would you catch up? You don't have to, why? To me, yes, the mayor is important, but, and one of the things that Barb Dorff said too, that if low salary people wouldn't want to run, well, you're not supposed to run because of salary. You're supposed to run
Right.
because you
Barb Dorff said that
want
too.
to, it's your civic duty almost, to come forward and to represent the city. And you should have a better reason for running than the salary. I just don't like the 13% increase all of a sudden. But like Barb said, we could talk about, salary increase and maybe, each year increase it a little bit. But I just think some employees just might say, well, why am I working here if I'm only getting this and we're just getting jumped this much? Yeah, it was a problem, we probably should have done, over the years. People don't look at the future and realize it, and I just like to talk about it
Sure,
and look at it.
absolutely,
and,
that's what we're
try to
doing
see
now,
what we
we're
can do.
discussing it.
We're
Yeah.
discussing it.
All right, anybody else? Alder Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair.
Clerk,
be
you're gonna
careful on
have
it.
to- you're gonna have to,
I'm gonna be,
You gotta come up to
oh,
the,
podium.
sorry. Thank you. I'll probably recuse myself in a lot of this because I am running, but I guess I have a general, what's that? I'm walking right now. Anyway, sorry. Anyhow, no, the question I had was, why was it frozen 10 years ago? You know, what was the reason? Is there any reason behind that?
City council made that choice.
Right, but I
Were
just
you on
wanted,
council then, or not? Oh, maybe you know someone who
We're all
was.
innocent.
we're all innocent.
Yeah,
I
don't
I guess I
know,
was just
but
looking for the
really,
reason.
the
I
reason
realized the
is city
council voted
voted.
on it, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to know what the reasoning was behind it.
Hard to say. I mean,
Who knows? It would just be conjecture.
10 years ago, everything was crashing.
Yeah,
That's when
it
everyone
could
had their
be,
wages
yeah.
frozen for several years. That might have been the start of
That
it.
could have been, and they just left it as such. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
that's it. Thank you.
There was a gentleman in the back. Yes, sir. If you could approach, did you fill out a form to speak?
I didn't.
Okay, I'll just need your name and your
You
address.
have to open to the public?
Oh, move to open the floor.
Second.
Yeah, just hold on. You don't have to go. Wait, just stay there.
Okay.
Motion to open the floor by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder LaFave, or Corpus Dax. All in favor?
Aye.
Doesn't make any difference.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the floor has been open to the public.
My name is Bronson Smith. I live at 1525 Smith Street in Green Bay here. I really agree with the Kathy a lot. The proposed $11,000 annual increase over the next 4 years is quite frankly obscene, specifically since the Green Bay Common Council just voted to have a $20 wheel tax imposed on residents of Green Bay because we don't have enough money to repair crumbling roads in time before many of them turn into gravel roads, but yet somehow we have the funds the funds exist to give the mayor a $44,000 salary increase by 2022. You know, on top of that, the mayor would also get whatever annual pay increases the city provides to general municipal employees as well. You know, I mean, I don't care one bit if the raise would provide a more equitable compensation for whomever the mayor might be at the time compared to some city department heads. You know, then maybe the other department heads need to take a pay cut. And in regards to other, mayors around the state, this isn't a game of keeping up with the Joneses. If you want to increase the mayor's salary, since the last increase was in 2010, fine. I'm a reasonable guy. Up between even $87,500. A one-time increase, not an annual increase over the next 4 years. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just, the city, just doesn't have a lot of funds, but yet somehow these funds have suddenly became available to give the mayor's office a gigantic, huge raise. And I just think it's wrong. Like Kathy said, nobody else is getting massive pay increases. I guess the cost of everything is going up, but it's like, I think it's unreasonable that the citizens of Green Bay should be on the hook for that kind of a raise for one person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion closed. Second.
Okay, motion to close the floor by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Dorf. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And
I'm not opposed to the mayor getting an increase, but not this amount.
okay.
I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
would be okay bringing him to, what did we say base was, or what he would have been? It was like
94,863.
I got a couple questions. Joe, does the mayor or any elected official get an annual cost of living increase automatically?
I don't believe, no, I don't believe they have.
They don't,
No.
okay.
At
So,
least recently they haven't. There are common council members or mayors in other areas. I believe mayors have gotten increases based on that, other municipalities.
okay. So unless we, the council, and it's all approved, votes to increase alderman or the mayor's salary, it will stay the same forever.
For the next term.
For the next, it has to be
Right.
4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, either we act now,
Right, we have to act
Or we
now,
can't.
because after December 1st, we cannot act.
okay.
Once people officially take out
All
papers,
right.
we cannot act.
So, and I agree, the mayor, councilman, you don't do this for the money. But, and I'm, love them or hate them, and I don't want to bring the current mayor into this.
No.
I'm talking about past mayors I've seen. This is a 7-day-a-week job, and it's 24 hours a day. It is very involved. Not only are you an ambassador, you're kissing babies, you're cutting ribbons, but you're also the person, the lead negotiator with any of these private public developments that are going on. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And if you get lucky and you elect someone that can do that job, you're better off. If you get unlucky and you elect a person that can't do the job, then you either got to go through a process to remove them or wait until the next election to remove them. We are the shareholders of this community. And I think how we compensate the person that we're choosing to lead this company, this organization, this city, whatever you want to call it, I think at the same time, again, you're not doing it for the money, but there has to be some compensation there. I mean, there's travel, there's so many things that they could list that we're not even aware that they have to do. And I just think that for whatever reason why it was frozen, let's move forward. I don't agree with 11,000 a year, but I would like to see maybe something where there's a $12,328 difference between his 82,535 and what we estimated based on cost of living of 94,863. What if over the next 4 years, we got him up to that level of 94,863? Now, that doesn't even take into account that the cost of living is going to go up those next 4
Well,
years.
and I think if we would do that, I would want to see, in addition, getting whatever percentage raise, just as was written in the first motion.
So if we divided that by 4, so it comes out to roughly 3,000, just under $100 a year, plus whatever the cost of living is.
Right,
Okay.
so he's not falling further behind.
Right, absolutely.
Everyone else.
And again, it's not an easy job. You're never gonna make all the people happy all the time in this job. It's just, that's the nature of the beast.
Right.
So we're reducing it from 44,000 total down
Right.
to about 12,000.
So my motion is that,
Wait.
oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Go on.
May I please?
Well, I thought you had spoken already.
No, I would just like to make the motion.
Oh, go
Because,
ahead.
yes, because I brought,
Go ahead.
thank you. I would like to
I blew
move.
up.
No, it's okay. That over the next 4 years, we bring the mayor's salary up to 94,863 in equal increments over the next 4 years. And in addition, he would get whatever increase of cost of living increase that the employees get. Does that make sense?
Yep. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Dave.
Is there more discussion?
Is there more discussion? Joe?
One thing I like to say, just for the record, is that the prior HR director, Lynn Boland, did put this study together, and she did a great job. I can't take credit for that.
She did do a great job. She did.
So
And I mean, we are really going way, way, way below what this study, the Carlson Detman study, the mayor as the chief executive officer would be compensated in accordance with a pay grade that provides the highest level of compensation in the city for this position. That is what was recommended, and that highest pay grade in the city has a salary step range of 103 to 122,000 with a performance range of 122,000 to 140,000. We are not even reaching the lowest level
Yeah.
of that.
And I would
So-
point out that even with this increase at the end of 4 years, and depending upon what the cost of living is, the mayor will still be making $20,000 to $30,000 a year less than all of his department heads.
You will.
And, you know, Mr. Bronson, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, a lot of people are out there, they're not making even 80,000 a year between them and maybe their significant other. But as far as our department heads go, we've done studies and we found that we just can't retain that. If you want the good people,
That you have.
sometimes unfortunately you have to pay it. But I understand where you're coming from. For a lot of common people paying taxes out there, even $80,000 is a lot of money to make a year. And I appreciate you getting up and speaking your piece and making your thoughts known on that. But I also think that this job entails, and it'd almost be neat we had to work with the mayor for one day, just to see what people really get a feeling of what they're going through and what they're seeing and the different dynamics that are involved. And it's juggling a lot of balls at the same time. And I think if you ask, he's in charge of over $100 million budget, almost 1,000 employees. And granted, it's hard to compare public to private sector, but where in the private sector would you find anyone willing to do a job to run an operation like this for that kind of money? And so obviously, who's ever doing these jobs, and this is throughout the United States, they're doing it for, not for the compensation, they're doing it because they, I think, hopefully, they care about their community.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And I did look at the gentleman, and when we decided, like 3,000 more a year, he said yes.
Oh,
He shook
okay.
yes, he thought that was fair.
All All right, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Who's second?
Alderman LaFave.
Gotcha.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. Item number D6, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Johnson to create an orientation onboarding program for new alders that could also serve as a refresher for existing re-elected alders. Items to consider for inclusion: rules on gifts, code of conduct, rules on walking quorums, presentation by the department heads, role plan for most common requests of alders, etc. Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I brought this forward. I had talked with several of the other new alders, including Alder LaFave and Alder Corpus Dax and Alder Stevens. Am I missing anyone?
Well, Alderman,
I called them all.
he was
Yeah,
already.
I wanted to get a feel from them, just, how their onboarding process has been. And I think overwhelmingly, the consensus was, it's tough. And it's tough because we make it tough. And what I mean by that is, as a new alder, there's really no training. You are 100% on your own. And you know what? Sometimes the School of Hard Knocks works, sometimes it doesn't. And we're elected to 2-year terms. And I've heard from other alders, previous alders as well, that they're into their term well over a year before they've even gotten their feet about them to understand how the government works. And so I just think it's a disservice to the city to put new alders in that position, to say just, sink or swim. And so I think it shouldn't be that difficult, really, for staff to put together a training program. I mean, if you're hired by an employer, you go through a training program. If you're appointed to a nonprofit board of directors, they put you through a training program. It just, I guess, was a little bit surprising to me that new alders didn't have that same privilege, and that, just something that goes over the basic rules, basic understanding. I've made a lot of individual appointments with department heads, which has been useful, and I still know that I'm not hitting everybody. When I get calls from constituents and it's like, my neighbor's not cutting their grass, there's trash out here, this person's got too many dogs, and whatever it is, right? There's a plethora of issues, and it takes a lot of time to figure out who at the city I need to communicate with to find resolution to some of those challenges. So I think just a simple orientation program that goes through some of this, and I don't think it needs to be that complex or that difficult, but I think it's important that we do something.
Yeah, I definitely found this very hard in a way, because I have one constituent who's sending me emails all the time to do this and this and this. Why aren't you getting it done? You said to the blah blah. She wants everything done right away. Well, I'm still learning. I don't know where to go, and I'm not. And when you talk to staff or you leave a message, they're busy too, and they can't get back to you right away. But you have to know. I will make a comparison with the county. We get a book. I should have brought mine with me. I'm going to see if I can get Lebanon. We got this one. It's okay. But they have, I give my old one to Chris. I did my last one, and he says, oh my gosh, it is so detailed. It tells you all these people, where to go. And it's so easy, because you just look, you want someone in parks, you look right here, it tells you what page to go to, you flip it, it's there. It gives you all these contacts, and gives you backgrounds on the parks, and it gives you background, all these different things that you should know in order to do your job. And I wasn't doing the best at the first couple of months, because I didn't know where to go. We got a sheet on the department heads, but you're not going to call a department head, because then they're going to tell you, well, you got to call this person. So you still have a delay, So yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to speed up the level of service that new alders are able to provide to their constituents.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Couple questions. and I'll just throw this out, I'm sorry, did you?
No,
No.
no, we were laughing at
I was gonna say something, but I.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
No, no,
catch it.
that's fine.
No, go ahead, Mark, come on up.
No,
I'd just like to see you get up and down.
yeah, I do too. No, I totally agree. I've been on the council 7 years now, and I still, it took me probably a year and a half to really get the hang of things. And I have an iPhone, and for me, when I tell citizens, contact me, but many of my citizens don't have computers. So then you gotta make the phone calls and you gotta go over and visit. So it's it's definitely a time constraint, and I didn't realize how much it was until you actually start doing things. And when you go over to visit, you can't go over for 5 minutes. Sometimes you spend a half hour, 45 or more in their kitchen, or
Right.
I had a trip to Lithuania, this woman, I know all about Lithuania, but I was there for 2.5 hours. But that was part of just getting to know the citizen. So I don't know if, I think we all have different ideas on this. I think one of the problems I've had is that when you have a big project or an issue that you're talking about, we rely on ourselves many times. They dig out the information, go online, talk to people. There were a lot of issues early on in my career here where I spent many hours, and I probably maybe spun my wheels too long doing that, but it was part of what I needed to do to try to get the best information out there on any topic. So I appreciate Alder Johnson coming forward with this. I made some overtures to some of the folks to go around their district. I've gone out with a few of the alders just to see what issues are going on, and I still want to do that with whoever would like to do that. But I don't know if there's a real easy answer.
There may not be, but Celestine, you were talking about, instead of the booklet, you were talking about, and maybe I misunderstood, about a program on the city. Were you talking about like an electronic program or something that we could use to, instead of that book, because that book, it gets outdated so quickly. I mean, I was calling someone at DPW and she had transferred to the water department 6 months ago. And, some of these things are going on, and so the book is not always updated, but was there, with this new fancy thing that we have going with the new, is there something we could work into there? Or is there also something, though, where we could get some of the, have like a little half-day or a couple half-day boot camps for alders to revisit with law and DPW and, what are the processes? Because the processes are what mystify, I think, a lot of us, and, what we have to go through. I mean, it still amazes me sometimes that someone wants to know if they can open a business in my district, and I've got to go to 3 different people to see if it's going to be okay, instead of one clearinghouse for that.
So Celestine Jeffries, Chief of Staff. So I remember doing that myself since I was elected in 2006. So there's a couple things. Right now, I was actually going over this with Alderman Lefebvre. Our website has a forward-facing, a public-facing directory of staff, not an inward-facing one. I actually use the same book that I provided to Alder Lefebvre, but the difference is I know who's here, and I know who's also in our other 21 areas. We do, I would like to contrast this to the school board for just a moment, since I served on the school board as well for 2 terms. The WASB has some interesting training that goes on for school board members. School board is differently functioned than city council for lots of reasons. But there's more effort from WSB to provide some information to brand new school board members. The League of Municipalities actually has some training for alders.
I went to that when I first became an alder.
It's very good. I've actually been to league training on a separate matter completely. The staff were talking about funds in order to do that, because we would need to be able to pay for that. Certainly, I think that an onboarding would be appropriate for staff members, and it isn't, for alders, it isn't just about, the rules, because you can actually read those rules on the League of Municipalities about gifts and walking quorums that's out there, but rather how do you go about doing what you do?
Right, I mean, it's easy to have out there what don't do, but then
Right,
we're still
how
trying to
do
figure
you-
out how do we conduct our business if we feel like we're in it, like, well, for quorums. I sometimes feel like I'm in this box and I cannot do anything until we actually get to a meeting, and then it's like,
Which you
well, we
kind
just
of
wasted a
are.
lot of our time.
We have a lawyer sitting here, yeah,
Right.
you kind of are in a box, you gotta watch that.
You know,
yeah.
and that's just it, so I mean.
But what do you do?
Right, exactly.
And how do you problem solve, and where does the work flow in City Hall?
Right, because I sat down with Steve Grenier for almost 2 hours when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 months later, I forgot half of what I heard from him. Well, just, you know, I don't know if it's old or it's just, that's me, but,
Hopefully you won't watch.
but it's, yeah, so we can sit down with these department heads or their designee, I don't care.
Mhm.
And, okay, these are, you know, and just by, these are the most common complaints we get, and this is how you handle it. Flow chart, something that makes it easier for us to do our job, so like Mark said, we're not spinning our wheels, or you're not spending time calling and then you get a voicemail and then they don't get back to you for
Well,
a
and a
day.
flow
and,
chart
you know.
is actually a lot of work. I think it mostly
Yeah.
is what type of problem gets solved by which person or persons.
Because you figure out your go-to people after a while, sometimes. But sometimes you feel like you're burdening them by going to them all the time, when there might be someone actually better to go to. And that's why, yes, if we could get something like what Brian is talking here, and then it's updated, and it would be great for alders, current alders, to, there might be stuff we don't know about, or we might have missed something and been doing it wrong all along, and it gets a score.
I think we'd have to give a lot of input on what we need, exactly. We would have to say, here's the most common problems.
Yeah.
Here's what we
Exactly.
need.
Exactly.
Instead of
I've got-
having them
So you
guess
so
what
you
we
know
need.
what to give us.
Right.
One of the
for
things that
training,
happened,
but-
Barb, on that was, I have citizens that are having block parties, and they'll say, okay, Mark, come to the block party, but we need something like, who do we call for sidewalks? Who do we call for a broken water main?
One
That
thing.
type of thing.
Party's one thing.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm,
Yes.
all I'm saying is that,
That's one of those things, like a block party is actually one type of application. But,
right, okay, well, let me just finish my point.
oh, I see what you're saying. that
I'm,
People are asking you
yeah,
at the
no,
block.
okay, just let me continue.
Shirley?
So basically, what happens is, like, for example, I talked to Public Works, I said, Steve, who do I call? Like, I can call the sidewalk person, I can call all these people on my own because I have their numbers. But if a citizen calls, who do they call? And Steve said, just call the front desk. But then I called Kevin Bonk, and he goes, hey, we got 6 different numbers that if you have a specific question on economic development or community block grants, or things like that, you can call. So every office is different.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and which is-
We should have that on we should have it on a list. then
So,
for
and
us,
that's
so-
something that, you know, I just fire through and fudge through to get what I need. And that can be difficult,
Yeah.
so.
You don't always need a name because if the employees move, but you need a number for the person who's in that position.
My biggest
Probably would be,
joy,
you know, you call them.
when somebody emails me with a problem, I'll take it and I'll fire it off to whoever. They'll fire back the information, I get it over to them, and within a day or 2 days, they get the information, and the citizens are very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to be heard, get the information out, get it done, and then you can get it off your plate too, instead of, you know, languishing it. So,
I
anyway,
did-
Brian, this is your,
Yeah.
This is okay, Council Clerk? I mean,
Bring something up.
without an orientation program, I didn't know. So, no, but I think the other piece of this too, we're talking a lot about like the constituent services, which is, you know, honestly, it's the impetus for me wanting to bring this, is to be able to provide great service for our people. But I think sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And I think to me, a program like this is really intended to tell us what we don't know and the things that we should know. And I can say without a doubt, I have witnessed over the years firsthand votes cast on things like TIF funding and alders not having a clue how TIF works. And knowing that we can be casting votes that affect millions of dollars over how many years, and that there are potentially people that don't understand the issue. You know, and you can say that's what elections are for. I'm gonna say, you know what, they were still elected here and we still have a responsibility to make sure you know, that we're providing the information to allow them to be effective representatives for their residents. And so, so again, part of it is just understanding how we deal with those little issues, but part of it is how we handle those big vision issues as well,
Sure.
and making sure that we are safeguarding the city of Green Bay as a whole. So-
I also asked Celestine, and she said, right now the program isn't there, but for a monthly calendar, because I do get, well, I get a paper one from the county, but it's a calendar for the month with all the meetings.
We had
So
asked
you
for
know
that, but
it-
it's just not
Right,
available
right.
yet in this.
But I'm just saying that's
thing.
another thing
Yeah.
that, you know, that would
That
help
would be
too,
helpful.
because what we get is the week.
All right. so-
Well, if you wanted to put a late communication in, well, sometimes it's too late. By the time you see that, you can't. So then it's put off for another month, you know, the issue that the person has or whatever. So, yeah, so that's another thing that would help. If we, you know, eventually maybe we can get something like that. I mentioned working on it, right?
Yeah, just, that's a website
Yeah,
issue that
Yeah.
we're working on.
yeah.
So, anyone else has any input on this?
No, I think it's necessary.
Okay, so going forward though, we need we can approve this, but who's going to handle this?
So
And
Yeah.
do you want input from all the alders, new and old, as to what they think should be in that, so it helps you to better address moving forward, how to put a program together?
For staff as well.
Well, exactly. You know, what do they think we need to know
Right.
to do
Sure.
our job? So, do we want to craft a motion, or do we just want to approve number 6 as is, or?
What I can add is that I did talk to City Attorney Chavez before this meeting, and she said that, you know, based upon the communication here in the item, that the law department would be happy to help with this training. And I can say that I think going forward, you can either shoot an email to the City Attorney Chavez. Actually, I'd say shoot an email to myself. I can take the issues from the alderpersons, and then I'll work with the law department, HR department to make sure we get our training put together for that.
Okay, so the motion would be to move forward with this orientation on board program, that all the alders send an email to Joe with,
I think you just keep it the way it is and just know that, because we'll work on creating an orientation onboarding program.
so you'll
myself.
reach out to us and ask us what we'd like to see?
Yes, I will do that. I'll
Okay.
send an email to each person asking you to give input back to me.
Okay, so
Okay.
a motion to the effect that we're going to have Joe is going to put together an orientation onboarding program, and he will reach out to department heads and alders for their input in developing it.
Second.
Okay. Okay, motion by Alder Galvin, second by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, number 7, consideration with possible action to add a second parking permit to the alderperson's benefit package. And I have an email from Alder Weary who wanted this. In it, he says he supports this. This is simply restoring something we have always had. The second pass can really just be a duplicate of the first one. Why are we making it more difficult for us to do our board of directors' duties? And as far as I know, the pass we get covers 3 cars, or 2 cars, if I remember correctly. It covers 2 cars or 3?
We get one.
Hold on, hold on, hold
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry.
Please.
Excuse me. Oh, I see.
Sure. So, yeah, the pass covers, the plasticated pass that you got this year covers multiple cars.
Covers multiple cars. So if my car breaks down, if I've already registered my wife's car, I merely
Absolutely.
throw it on there and I take my wife's
And
car.
if you buy a brand new car, a new Maserati next week, then you just give us the
I'm outta here.
license plate.
Yeah, right. I do know what
Okay.
Alder Weary
Thank you,
meant.
Celestine.
He meant that you have one of these, and sometimes because of, you
Your
know,
wife
the
takes your car
family,
and-
yes,
okay.
he might have to take the other car, and then, oh, I pass this in the other, the one at home. So that's all he wants.
That's all he's looking for that reason.
Yes, yes.
Celestine?
Yes.
Do you see an issue with that? Issuing a
Sorry.
duplicate? Well, my wife takes my car, I forget that my pass is in there, she's in Chicago. How do I park down here without getting it?
What you do is you park and you let Steve or myself know, or Terry, Sorrel at the mayor's office, hey, I've parked downstairs, here's a license plate, don't give me a ticket. And we will not give you a ticket.
Okay.
Without the hang tag, you will get a ticket.
Right,
Okay.
right.
See, and Steve,
Which I didn't
and
have
Director
you for that
Vernier has
one.
been quite opposed to providing more than one pass.
Correct.
Has he stated why?
Yes, because it is not a benefit that other people who park here get, and we need to, I think what he'd like to also do is to make sure that parking staff have a good handle on which cars have passes. That helps us to keep control and not make mistakes.
I don't know what that means, keep control and not make what kind of mistakes.
Making sure that we are, the cars that are in the lot that are authorized to be in the lot with a parking with a hang tag. And if we have multiple cars, which we don't know about those license plates, using the hang tags, then
So all the staff that
Yeah, but then-
works in this building that has an assigned parking spot has a tag that they hang on their
no.
car?
So there are several different ways that you have parking if you're a city employee. You get, first is you get a pass to be in the ramp. So for instance, interns get a little card reader that you open the gate with and then close the gate with.
Okay.
Then there are people who park in the lot with a hang tag, people who are back and forth. There are people like directors have parking spaces organized either with a sign or number
Okay.
along the east side of the building. And then, like in the HR department, because some of the employees, this is just an example, some of the HR employees have to be out at one of our 21 sites, and so they share a space along the alley. So those are the ways that city employees in City Hall get to park.
So
If
none
you
of
are-
them have duplicate passes?
No.
And if they forget it, then they merely go and talk to one of the three people you indicated, and they're good for the day?
And if they go on the ramp and they forget their little card, then they have to pay. And, go ahead.
So the consideration with having too many passes out there is eventually there might be some abuse. Is that what you mean?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially.
But mostly it is that it's one pass per employee per multiple vehicles.
All right. Thank you.
Personally,
Yes,
I don't
Kathy?
see a problem with this. I mean, I don't think all 12 aldermen are going to ask for this. Some just, it does cause a problem. It's because, with Chris's work and, it's just, I can understand his reasoning. And to me, you might be the only one asking it. And then the other car will be registered for that pass. So it's controlled. You know who has those passes. And if an alder gives it to someone else who's not authorized, then they lose it, right? There's rules. You can't do this, you can't do that. They know that. So you do have to be, responsible for that pass that you get. So I don't see a request, why to turn this request down.
And I think isn't that looking at the benefit, because this is a benefit. Parking is a benefit.
Okay.
And if this were a more expensive city, that would be something you'd need to report to the IRS probably, but yeah,
All right.
parking's a benefit.
All right, thank you. Brian?
Yeah, so INS committee initially took this up, and I can't recall, I think it passed. I know that I did not vote in favor of it, but the reason it's back here at personnel is because it is, to Celestine's point, it's a benefit, and because it would be a second pass, that is a benefit that's not received by any other member of the staff or public, which is why personnel had to take it up, if you were to grant that. And what was publicly shared at the INS meeting by a city staff person is that there has been instances in the past where the dual passes have been abused. So now that staff person did not share any specific examples, or it was just kind of a statement that was shared. And I voted against at INS the supplying of the second pass simply because we're all grown adults. We have to bring our notebook to school. We have to bring our laptop. We have to, whatever we got to do to bring our supplies here to be, ready to work. That's what we do, just like any other staff person here at City Hall. And so I think to create exceptions from any of the other staff people that the city employs is giving favoritism to our elected officials. And so for that reason, I would not support this. And if it comes before council, I won't support it there either.
All right, thank you. Yes.
I'm a little embarrassed, but my daughter took my car for a camping trip, and the pass is gone, so I had to buy a new one. It's $20 to replace.
The pass that we're currently using, why did you have to, but,
Well,
It says
she took
right
my
on
car.
it that you have to pay for it if you lose it. It says right
oh,
on
it got lost when she.
Yeah, so it's gone, so I had to pay $20.
One of our friends probably.
Could be partly my fault, partly, who knows? I'm not gonna blame anybody, but I'm just saying that that's part of the responsibility, so I had to buy a new one today.
Ouch.
So I'm not gonna be going.
That's why you didn't take me out for lunch?
No.
Yes, I have.
And I had to pay a $15 parking fee because I was here, was it 2 days ago, when I was talking to Celestine and that. I had to pay because my back was bothering me so much, very painful. Getting out, getting my stuff and trying to get out of the car, to lock the car, came in, did not put my pass on. And so I had to pay $15.
Me too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I did,
It happens.
my pass was in
If
the
you
car.
screw up, you
but,
pay.
Yeah, if I got here and I was in my husband's car, I didn't have my pass, I'd have to plug it, but then I have to run down every
No, you
hour.
could
You would
come
just- you
in
would just call.
and see
Yeah.
Celestine or Terry or
Yeah.
Steve Grenier up at DPW, and you could park your husband's car here.
Right.
That's
You're
what
giving
they
me
just said.
information.
So even if the pass, if his daughter merely had the pass and Mark had to come here, without it, he'd just come in and get,
A one-day.
A one-day.
I got a one-day pass.
so I mean, this is,
Maybe
Yeah.
Alder Weary doesn't know that. Maybe he wasn't aware that he could do that.
I think he was aware of that, because I was at the meeting where that was discussed.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he knows.
Any other input, comments, concerns? All right, I'll entertain a motion on number 7.
I'll move to deny adding a second parking permit to the older person's benefit.
And I'll second that. So a motion to deny by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor of denial?
Aye.
I'll abstain, because that's my son-in-law.
You're going to abstain? Okay, so I have 3 ayes and 1 abstention by Alder LaFay. All right, moving on to item E. Okay. Report of routine personnel actions for regular employees. And I think everyone's read it. I would entertain a motion to,
You can
See,
place.
place and file.
motion by Alder Corpus Dax.
Second.
Second by Alder Dorf to receive and place on file. Next meeting date is August 14th,
Did you want us to
2018.
vote on that motion?
Sorry, lost my head. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel.
He's out of here.
Okay, so, item E1, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next meeting date is August 14th, 2018. That's it. I'll take a
To
roll.
adjourn.
Okay.
What?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, I need a second. Okay, motion to adjourn by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Dorf, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, this meeting is adjourned.
And don't forget to leave the meeting. Just a reminder.
So now, if we go
Whatever.
back-